Well, the time has come. Well, it's time to do it anyway because I've been holding up on this one for quite some time. Now, as you all know, New Japan has begun the road to the new beginning. So it's going to be, of course, a 2-day event in Korakuen Hall. This happened, of course, at the start of the week on Monday on the 19th and the 20th of January. However, of course, on both days it features the annual Young Lion Cup. Now, for those who are not familiarized with that, I'll explain it in a little bit. But however, of course, on both shows they both have some interesting main events. On day one, it features the never openweight six-man tag team titles on the line and a number one contendership for the IWGP tag team titles. We'll see how those play out. However, on day two, the junior heavyweight titles are also on the line. The IWGP junior heavyweight tag team titles will be defended, and so will the IWGP junior heavyweight championship. So we're going to see what's going to happen on both days. And then, of course, as always, we'll wrap up our episode as usual with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information is unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got Do Nagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the jibber jabbers. Let's get started. So, as I said before, it's all about New Japan, and they've begun the road to the new beginning. And their first start of the tour will be in Korakuen Hall for both days. So let's begin with day one. Okay, New Japan Pro Wrestling, the road to the new beginning. And it just started on the 19th of January, which was, of course, this past Monday. And, of course, this happened in Korakuen Hall. Now, we opened up, of course, with the Young Lion Cup that happens every year at the start of 2026, of course. Now, there are 6 wrestlers, so basically 2 will have a bye on this one, and Wade who will walk out to face their opponents. And of course, it's only the Young Lion wrestlers, the ones who are still in training. Now, our first match, we have Tatsuya Matsumoto taking on Masatora Yasuda. Now, of course, when it comes to the Young Lions, we have often see how much they have learned from many of their peers, their mentors, and all that stuff. But of course, we've seen Tatsuya Matsumoto, as you know, he's been hanging out. He's like the unofficial third person in the Goto Revolution. If you well, with both Yoshihashi and Hirogo, he learned a lot. But however, he has to face against Masaya Tora. But one thing that was interesting is how this match ended is with, of course, Yasuda applying a Boston Crab onto him, and just like that, he tapped out. Now, our next match, we have Zane J taking on Daiki Nagai. Now, of course, the match was going pretty well from the very beginning of this old thing. So, nothing too special about it except winning the match. However, of course, out of nowhere, Cal Newman showed up because, of course, Daiki Nagai had Zane J right in the Boston Crab. However, if you guys can guess, Cal Newman has a problem with the guys from Unbound. And of course, Daiki Nagai is part of that group. So basically, he's out to teach him a lesson, but at the same time, he had other plans. He passed a chair onto Zane J, and of course, he whacked them with it. And basically, he now joined officially, of course, the United Empire. As you know, the United Empire are now at war with the Unbound, and of course, they decide to beat up Zane J. But however, beat up Daiki Nagai. However, Daiki Nagai automatically won this match by disqualification. But of course, Cal Newman and Zane J decided to beat him up until, of course, Tagagi, Ishimori, Hiromu, Geto, they all showed up because they cannot stand and watch one of their own get beat up. So this war is not over yet. Now, our next match, we have a bit of a preliminary one here, as you probably can guess. We have, of course, El Desperado, Toru Yano, Master Wata Yo, and of course, the never openweight champion, Aaron Wolf. They take on the House of Losers, consistent of Evil, Dick Togo, Yujiro Takahashi, Ren Narita, and Doiki. Now, keep in mind, El Desperado will be in the main event on day 2 for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, a title that was taken from him thanks to Doiki and that Scuzzball show involved. But however, Ren Narita, as you know, became the challenger for the never openweight title. Now, obviously, we know that recently, as you know, when it comes to the House of Losers, they're determined to get back what's rightfully theirs, and that's pretty much what happens with their usual tricks, with of course using weapons and all that. But however, Wolf decided to teach them a lesson when he put Dick Togo in a strong submission. Of course, Dick had no choice but to give up, and just like that, it was completely over. Now, our next match, we had the United Empire consisting of Cal Newman, Jacob Austin Young, uh, Francisco Carol Grado Khan, and Jake Lee taking on the Unbound. Geto, Hiromu Takahashi, Taiji Shimori, Shingo Takagi, and Yota Tsuji. Now, keep in mind, as you know, Francisco Kira has recently targeted both Taiji Shimori and Hiromu Takahashi because he wants to dominate the junior heavyweight division, and the people who've been at the top of the mountain of that is, of course, Ishimori and Hiromu. But however, Jake Lee, as you know, he has aimed for the IWGP Heavyweight title, a title that Yota Tsuji, as you all remember, feels you didn't earn it because you have to earn it first. But of course, Jake Lee's like, screw that, I'm gonna do it anyway. But of course, there was a moment many of you may have noticed or saw. There was a moment where Shingo was out due to an abdomen problem. This was something on a report that I mentioned on an update that he might be out for a while till early next month. So, but however, Akira was the one who picked up the win when he took out Geto, and of course, you know, we did see a promo. Tsuji, in fact, is not giving in to Lee's demands for the title because, of course, Jake Lee's like saying, I don't need to earn it. I just want the title now. So, I mean, this is something we have seen Jake Lee did in Noah before with Kato Kiyomiya. That's one of the main reasons we've seen that with him. But we'll see how that goes. Now, we do see a bit of a preliminary match before the day. Sho takes on Kosa Fujita. Now, as you know, Kosa Fujita, along with Robbie Eagles, are the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions. Well, both of these guys, both sides, of course, will have singles match. Sho takes on Kosa Fujita. However, of course, we did see moments where Fujita gave Sho a taste of his own medicine. Now, have you guys seen how the House of Losers operate? They like to soften their opponents up outside. Well, Fujita did that. But however, what makes it sweeter is that, of course, Sho decided to low blow while the ref was out. And then, out of nowhere, you know that plate that Sho uses all the time to ensure he wins? Well, Ghost of Vegeta decided, screw that, and just whack him, put him in a disqualification. Well, I don't think Ghost of Vegeta cares because he knows exactly who Sho is. However, while he was enjoying giving Sho a beatdown, well, his tag team partner he'll face next week, of course, Yoshinobu Kanemaru attacked him until Robbie Eagles showed up and decided to teach him a lesson. And of course, it became a brawl. Now, you would have assumed that we were going to see similar tactics between them, but no. Yoshinobu Kanemaru decided to use, of course, the whiskey mist, and he just pinned, of course, Robbie Eagles, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. Now, our never openweight six-man tag team titles, TMDK, Harley Jackson, Rohit Oiwa, and Zack Sabre Jr. defend them against, of course, Bolton Oleg and Bishamon, Hiro Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto. So, of course, obviously, we know that Goto has some history with Zack Sabre Jr. Don't forget, Zack defeated him for the IWGP World Heavyweight title last year, and that probably will be a little bit of a measure of playback. But man, the match was intensified. You didn't know how this was going to end, but however, it was in fact Goto who picked up the win when he applied the GTR onto, of course, Onoiwa, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. So basically, we have brand new, of course, never openweight six-man tag team champions, and I think this will be Yoshihashi's either second or third time he wins these belts, and I have this belt, so I'm happy for him that he does that. But show must go on. Now, before our main event, we had the current IWGP Tag Team Champions, Oscar and Yuto Ice, making their way for the number one contendership for these belts. And of course, we have Yusho, consisting of Yuyu Uemura and Shota Umino, taking on members of the Team 150, consisting of Tomohiro Ishii and Taichi. And I think this was a very intensified match, but at the same time, there's a moment of clarity between two people that know each other too well. Don't forget, Yuyu Uemura was brought in to be part of Just Five Guys, and Taichi, of course, learned a lot, faced them before. So basically, it's more like we fought before, and now we're doing something different from here. And I didn't think it was going to be possible until, of course, Shota Umino applied, of course, a second chapter on Ishii, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, done. They will be facing against, of course, the Knockout Brothers, and we'll see what happens. So that's pretty much it. What happened on day one in Korakuen Hall. So let's move on with day two. Okay, we continue with day two of New Japan's The Road to New Beginning. Now, keep in mind, day one, it began, of course, the Lion Cup tournament, and we have two co-main events, which is the IWGP Junior titles, and we'll get to that. Now, as you probably know, we already begun the first rounds of the Lion Cup. We have, of course, Daiki Nagai, who advanced after being attacked by Zayn Jade, disqualifying himself. We have, of course, Masatora Yasuda, who advanced, defeating, of course, Tatsuya Matsumoto. But now the real question is, can, after one day of, day after winning their matches in some ways, how will they be facing the much fresher individuals? Now, of course, Yasuda had to face Shomakato. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, because um, Yasuda already had a big, a tiring event, well, I'm sure he did not anticipate when he ended up in a very unique submission move that I did not expect that Shomakato would apply, which is the Fujiwara armbar, and that did a deed, and just like that, he ends up going to the finals, and that will happen until February, from my understanding. And as for, of course, Daiki Nagai, he faces against Kazuya Murashima. Now, the real question we ask ourselves, because he got beaten up brutally by Zane J and, of course, Cal Newt, how is he going to be in physical condition? Well, he tried to fight it off as much as possible, but unfortunately, that wasn't enough until Murashima put him in a Boston Crab, and just like that, he tapped out. So basically, you can say that the two individuals that won the first rounds did not pass because how they were physically they are been. So that's one of the factors I have noticed about it. Now let's move on to our next match, which is we have an interesting tag team match. Katsuya Matsumoto teams up with Shota Umino, while Yu Yu Uemura was on the ring side as a second. They take on, of course, the Knockout Brothers. This is like a somewhat a preliminary match before Umino and Uemura face the Knockout Brothers for the tag belts. And of course, it was expected that this was going to fall in favors of the Knockout Brothers when they put Matsumoto in the KOB, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Basically, um, uh, Yudo Ice actually pinned him, and just like that, it was over. Now, our next match, we have the House of Losers, of course. Dick Togo, Yujiro Takahashi, Ren Narita, and Evil taking on Toru Yano, Master Wato, Yo, and Aaron Wolf. Now, keep in mind, this is another preliminary match. Ren Narita has issued himself as the next challenger for the Never Openweight title. Now, as always, we always expect, of course, the losers, of course, to apply their usual tactics, um, using weapons, the garage, powder, whatever they can do. But however, Aaron Wolf was able to take care of Yujiro Takahashi when he put him in an armbar, making him scream like a little girl and tap out. Just like that, it's over. So we'll see what happens with more. But if you notice recently, when matches involving Aaron Wolf, they've been on a losing streak. So that's always been like that. Now, our next match, as you know, the war between both the United Empire and the Unbound continues. Uh, well, Shingo, as you know, I mentioned he seems like he was injured, but he seems alright. He taped his ribs and all of that. But however, the real problem what was going on is that Jake Lee is determined to win this match to show a show to Umino in some ways. I don't need to earn it. I want the title shot no matter what. So he made him watch while he took out, of course, one of his teammates. But of course, we did see Zane J getting involved and all that. And just like that, it was over. So basically, Jake Lee picked up the win. But of course, Yoda Tsuji had no choice but to give him the opportunity, knowing that he did not like it, but is bound to happen. Now, our next match was the semi-main event, is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team belts. The House of Losers, Kanemaru and Sho, will attempt to regain these belts. Now remember, Doki was the champion, but now Kanemaru decided to step up the game. They face against the Ichigai Sweet Boys, our current champions. Now, of course, we know that they probably will try to do whatever it takes to regain these belts and put them back into the House of Torture. But unfortunately, it did not do any well for them because A, it was Kosa Fujita that picked up the win, applying, of course, the throw ride on Kanemaru, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, they retain the titles. Now our main event is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Doki defends it against the man he beat the title from, and that is El Desperado. Now, for sure, El Desperado would love nothing more to beat Doki for what he did last time. Remember, that idiot Sho got involved, and that set it up. But of course, the House of Losers were there, of course. Evil, Yujiro, Narita, who else was there? I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, and Dick as well. But of course, we did see Wolf and Wato cleaning house, taking care of business, and of course they took out the trash. But F and Sho decided to show up once again to get involved, and of course the referee was out, low blow by Doki, and then of course the Suples de la Luna, just like that, Doki retained the championship, which is really messed up. But sooner or later, Doki may have to lose at some point. I just don't know when or where. So we'll see what happens soon enough. So that's what happened on day 2. I'm sure there'll be more of day 1, more of the road to new beginnings. So we'll see what happens. But as of right now, we're done here. Let's move on to our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. So let's start with upcoming events. Now, as you know, we'll be getting closer right now with the ROH and Metroplex wrestling in a Global Wars, and they just announced the first match of that particular day. This will happen on the 29th of January. The first match they announced is the ROH Women's Pure title. Diana Perazzo will defend it against Janai Kai, which I think is going to be a very fantastic match. Now, more matches are being announced for the upcoming Jersey J Cup by JCW and GCW as well. We have an annual J Cup Scramble match. We have Travis Williams versus Griffin McCoy versus Manny Lowe versus Joe Lando versus Vregandor and versus a mysterious opponent. We have KJ Orso, formerly known as Fuego del Sol, taking on Teriyaki. And then finally, Billy Starks taking on Ryan Clancy. Now we have the West Coast Pro Wrestling event that'll happen on the 7th of February. Big Bay Area brawl. We have Miko Alana taking on Leia Knight. Prestige Wrestling with their last event, Roseland, the final, which will happen on the 20th of February. They just announced Ryan Clancy will take on Travis Williams. And as you know, we are having promotions that are participating in the upcoming WrestleMania week, which is, of course, in April. On the 15th, they announced the Sean Henderson promotion. High Stakes will be participating. They even announced, of course, several matches and people involved. We have Jonathan Gresham will team up with AJ Clearing. Shotzi Blackheart will be there. Jack Evans and Otis Coger. So that's pretty much it for our upcoming events. Now for some developments for all. No, never mind. I got one more. I forgot it was on my notes. Now, as you know, we have the Kenta Kobashi annual Fortune Dream that happens once a year. Now, earlier I did mention Sari will be involved, and now this event will happen in Korakuen Hall on the 16th of April, which around the same time as WrestleMania week. Now, Sari was the first name to be added, and then of course the second name that was later announced was Big Hash, which is Shihiro Hashimoto. But finally, the last opponent, well, this one was surprising. It was Saya Kamitani, who in fact was added into this. Now, Kamitani made a joke out of this, saying that she kind of blackmailed Kenta Kobashi to be involved in this. I don't know exactly what she did, but for those who may not remember, Unagi Sayaka actually approached one time, 2 years ago, to Kenta Kobashi saying, "Listen, I never had my singles match with Kairi, so I would love to have a match against her." So that's one of the things that Unagi wanted to do, basically have her one-on-one match against her, and that's was granted. I don't know exactly why Kamitani blackmailed them, but it is what it is. Now on for some developments. Fightful Selects just reports that, of course, Hikaru Shida was at the backstage area at this past Wednesday's AEW Dynamite. Now it's still unclear what was going on there. We don't know. We haven't seen her for quite some time. I know she's been busy going back and forth from in Florida all the way back to Japan. Oh yeah, and of course, next up, Andrade El Idolo has been recently talked about the recent ice raids that have been happening. Now, this is something that he never does. For those who know him or follow his career, he never spokes about these things a lot, and that's why I don't normally talk about that stuff here. But this got my attention, and I feel like I want to share this one with you guys. Let me pull it up. This is what he says. So I don't want to speak so much, but with with what's happened with the immigration and all those things, happened so because I'm an immigrant, so I'm from Mexico. So I feel bad for these Latino people, people from other countries. So yeah, so he spoke out about that. But that's pretty much what he said. And then finally, this was coming from the ICW No Holds Barred promotion. If you guys never seen that promotion does a lot of death matches. Like they don't have a regular ring. However, they were supposed to do a Australian tour, but it seems like it's not going to happen. They're going to possibly postpone it. But this is what he said. What it was said. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond anyone's control, the upcoming tour postponed to later 2026. A lot of time, effort, and planning goes into putting together a tour this we want to do correctly. Australia will be back with the stops in Melbourne and Adelaide. Now all the focus will be on Japan in March. So yeah, they haven't determined what was the cause of it. I don't know if the recent thing that goes on in the world is happening, if it had any play, but that's something we don't know. But it is what it is. They have no choice but to focus now on Japan. So we'll see what happens. But as of right now, let's call it a day. Well, hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we have AEW Collision. Now, I am fully aware we do have a Stardom event. They're going to do a 2-day event at this one place. I don't know. They're still continuing with more of the New Year's Stars tour. So we'll see how that happens. But if I'm unable to see Stardom, I apologize. But we'll focus on AEW Collision. But until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye and have a nice day. Bang.